Hello, everyone. This is my first podcast. We name it as a Positive Conversations, and I welcome Miss Kelly, who is a advocate, like pet animal welfare advocate, and she wants to make some different good impact to the pet ownership and pet welfare. And she is a new face of Qatar Animal Welfare Society. Right? Am I true?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I welcome her to the our first. So I always wanted to create a podcast, and we are so lucky that we have you on this platform as a first podcast. And just give us some intro about yourself, and we would like to know about more about you. Actually, just a quick brief about you to the audience.
Well, thank you very much for having us on today. I'm one of the committee members at Cause. So we originally moved to Doha in 2002, and
Okay.
I've been involved with Cause from the very beginning, 2004. So it's been a long time coming, but yeah, I've been involved since the very beginning of the shelter.
Yep. Great. Thank you so much. I know that. So your mother started this course as a social like a pet shelter. So how it is evolved through the time. So
Well, we didn't. Yeah, no, that's not exactly how it started. We never sat down and decided, okay, we're going to open a rescue shelter. It wasn't something that we had planned to do. It was kind of an accident.
okay.
Originally opened a boarding facility in Doha back
Okay.
many years ago. And the first weekend that we were open for boarding, somebody drove past, threw some puppies out of a pickup truck, and drove away. So they
Okay.
were the first two rescues that we ever had, and this was back in 2003. And we took them in. Obviously, this was over the summer. We were busy with boarders, but we found them homes really easily with one of our clients who was boarding dogs with us. So we kind of thought, this is okay. We can take a few animals in here and there whilst we do boarding, look after them, find them homes, and
Okay.
help in a small way. The problem was, as soon as it got out that there was somebody helping animals in Qatar, we were just inundated. And within 2 years, we had to close boarding completely because we were just full of rescue animals. And that's how Cause started. It was never a plan, it was by accident.
Okay.
And
Okay. For a good
but
cause, though.
there was a need because back when we started, there were no animal welfare groups. There
True.
was nobody rescuing animals at all. So as soon as word got out that we were helping animals, everybody was begging us for help. And so that is how we came from two puppies to, I think we currently have just over 360 animals currently today.
Oh my God. So can you segregate like how many dogs and how many cats? Or
Roughly, it changes literally on a weekly basis, so I never know exactly. But at the
okay.
moment, we have just short of 95 cats, and
Okay.
then we're about 190 dogs and puppies. And
Okay.
then we have all the other rescue animals as well. So we've got donkeys, we've got the horse, we've got sheep
Yeah.
and
I
goats
have
and the
been there a couple of
cow,
times. So I
the
know. So
baboon.
there
We
are
have
many people from the audience. They know that. So how effectively that you are managing the pet shelter. So it's
yeah.
amazing actually. So you said that. So it is started in 2003, right? So now it's 2000 like 23. So 20 years of the journey. So what has changed in the complete like 20 years of the like complete you are say it a lifetime thing.
What has changed? We've got a lot bigger for sure.
Yeah.
Some things have changed. We've seen, obviously, the development of the country over the last 20 years, the
Yeah.
change in attitude towards animals, towards pet ownership. 20 years ago, it was difficult to bring your animal in or out of
True.
Qatar because there
True.
wasn't
True.
really the fundamental underlying regulations in place. It's
True.
got a lot easier now, so there's a lot less excuse. If you're leaving Qatar, the pet should go with you.
True.
And just generally, it doesn't always feel like it, but we have seen an improvement in some of the pet related aspects of Qatar.
True.
We now
True.
have multiple vet clinics offering different services, whereas 20 years ago we had one single clinic and that was it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
availability of pet supplies, good quality pet food, all of that's now available, which we didn't have 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
have
So that
seen slow progress over the years, and that we do have a
true.
way to go, but we've definitely seen progress.
True. So that was my actually my second next another question. The next question actually. So how the Qatar supported you in the complete process, and so do you think that technology can help you in the transition much easier, or have you used any technology platforms? So how you manage the operations within your system?
Without technology and social media, we couldn't do what we do. Everything that
Okay.
we do is via our social media channels, through apps, through basically technology that wasn't in existence 20 years ago. So we opened our first properly shelter in 2004. And
Okay.
then in 2009, we suffered an electrical fire, which burnt the shelter down completely. And it was word of mouth. And we posted on one of the old Qatar websites on the internet that we needed help. And within 45 minutes, we had every single one of the 150 animals was in a car and on its way to a foster home, whilst the fire brigade was still putting the fire out. Nowadays, if we need anything, we know we can go online and our supporters will help. If we didn't have access to these kinds of technologies, we wouldn't be able to do what we could do now.
Yeah. True. So that's actually a great change or great improvement in the complete process actually.
Yeah.
So that so considering that, how we can, so as a pet application like my pet world, how we can improve in the process. So some of our audience know that, so we have a socialized feature as a core solution where we have pet discussion forum and pet adoption. So the details are yet to provide to us though, but we have listed some pet for adoption. So how we can help you in the complete process of for the good or social impact to the pets or pet shelters like you.
Just developing the community aspect of things, because everybody knows if you go on any of the other social medias and you ask a question, you have the genuine pet people who want to help, but you
True.
always get stuck with all the trolls and all the other people who just
True.
put in comments that are not relevant and
True.
are upsetting at times. To be able to have a community that's just for pet owners who want to help each other
True.
means that people will be more willing to ask questions and offer advice, because they're not worried about non-pet owners coming
True.
in and putting in opinions that are maybe not quite so relevant
True.
to the question and point. And having
True.
the community discussing points, it naturally evolves into coming up with new ideas and things that can maybe are missing from the pet scene in Qatar, that maybe are required. And that just evolution and development of talk will
Mhm.
continue to allow, especially the rescuers, to continue rescuing and finding new homes. A
Yeah.
lot of our adopters are overseas, and without social
Yeah.
media, we wouldn't be able to reach the overseas adopters,
True.
because we don't have a way of sharing information that's basically available to everyone.
True. True.
Having the community through know that we're available. We know that a lot of our adopters then contact their friends back home and send on the information for pets that are looking for homes. Having
True.
the pet community means that we can reach everyone in Qatar, who can then help us expand outside of Qatar as well.
True. True. So some of the audience, so they were curious about the genuinity of a such a firm actually. So I would like to like you explain the life journey of a pet, that you get one pet rescuer to your shelter, and what is the process of if someone from Qatar wants to adopt or someone from the overseas wants to adopt. So can you just give me like a journey of it?
Our priority is always the animal. So our adoption policies can come across as a little bit strict, but we know over 20 years we've found a process that works for us and give us the best adoption rate. We have almost no animals returned back to us because of how we do the adoption policy. But
Yeah.
basically, when an animal first comes to us in the shelter, if it's from the street, which is 95% of the animals that we take in
True.
come directly off the streets, we put them straight into isolation. And then they're isolated for 2 weeks whilst we try to find if an owner is looking for them. They are health assessed to make sure that if they have anything wrong with them, we have an opportunity to treat them and get them help that they need. It gives us the opportunity to get them vaccinated so that they're protected before they come in contact with other animals. And it also gives us a period of time where we can make sure that they're not sick and will transfer anything to any of the other animals. So isolation in the first 2 weeks is really important. It also is when we start to do our behavioral assessments. So we start to
Okay.
learn as they calm down and settle down. The personality normally changes from the scared animal that arrives to
True.
someone who's settled after 2 weeks. So we would
True.
never rehome an animal within the first week of receiving them because we don't know what kind of home they're going to need.
Okay. Okay. So is it a separate shelter that you have place there, right? So is it a separate
We
play
have
location?
we have isolation buildings within the shelter facility, so
Okay.
we still have access to them all the time, but they're not accessible by the public or by volunteers. They're
True.
kept
Yeah.
separate. And then
Yeah.
once they've passed the isolation period, they kind of go into our general population where they can start to meet the volunteers. They can start to be socialized with other animals. So with dogs, with puppies, with cats. We normally take the dogs around to meet the sheep and the donkeys to kind of see what their interaction
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's when we learn how they are. A lot of the dogs that come in, for example, are frightened of tall men or
True.
they're scared of people wearing baseball caps. So this is where we start to find out more about the animal individually. From
Okay.
there, we then basically do a profile of the right kind of home for this dog. So if it's a 12-month-old boisterous hyperactive husky, which we're seeing a lot of at the moment, that's not a dog that's going to look for a studio apartment with somebody who works 12 hours a day. So
Right.
then when someone comes to the shelter and they start to ask about adoption, we have, for lack of a better word, it's an interview process where we ask lots of questions about the adopting family.
Okay.
Everything from the family members in the house, the type of accommodation, the country they'll be going to when they leave, their past experience. And then we help recommend animals that are going to suit their lifestyle. Because
Yeah.
we know that if we make the good match from the beginning, it's a lifelong match, and the animal
True.
is much more likely to leave with them when they go from Qatar and stay with them for the
True.
next 15 years.
True. 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 That's amazing actually. So when you mentioned the husky part, so it's very
Yeah.
unfortunate, very sad to see so many huskies are out there
Yeah.
abandoned actually. So what is the kind of breeds that you have? Is it always mix or you get some pure breeds and shed some light on that too?
We are majority Doha special mixed breeds, which for us are the best because generally they are the least number of health issues. They are very, very happy, healthy dogs. We do get a lot of Salukis,
Mm,
especially at the end of the racing and hunting seasons when they're maybe not
true.
needed anymore. We get a
True.
lot abandoned. So Salukis we see a lot of. Unfortunately, we do see a lot of Huskies. And for us, they're difficult to rehome because obviously they need specialist care, not
Yeah.
just because it's hot in Qatar, but the amount of fur that they shed and the amount of energy that they have.
True.
And a lot of them can be very stubborn and very independent, and they're not a breed of dog that I would ever recommend to someone who's never had a dog before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
trying to find experienced owners that have the space these dogs need
True.
is tough locally. So although we do local adoptions for huskies, we try to rehome them overseas as much as we can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. So, but still, people go for this as a first adoption as a huskies actually. So that's
They do,
unfortunate.
and it's one of the things that we have to try and nicely explain that if you come to the shelter, you may not necessarily leave with what you've first come in with. We have a lot of people that come to us and say, I want to adopt a husky puppy. Now, by the
Yeah,
end of the process, when we've explained everything and we've shown them the dogs and maybe we've let them meet some huskies, 9 times out of 10, they adopt a dog that they absolutely adore or a
yeah,
cat,
yeah,
but it's often the complete opposite of what they thought they wanted. And
yeah.
having the opportunity to come to our shelter facility where you don't just meet one dog or two dogs or one cat or two cat, we can immerse you in, okay, here's 100 cats. Look at all the different personalities, look at
Mm.
how they interact with you, then let the cat choose
True,
you, basically.
true,
A
true.
lot of people do leave and say, I had no idea about this. I thought I wanted one thing, but having met the dogs and the cats and spoken to you, this is more suitable for what we're actually looking for. So
True.
don't expect if you go to a shelter or rescuer that you're going to leave within 1 hour with what you had set in your mind. Some of our adopters come and volunteer for weeks. They'll come every week for 3 or 4 months, and then one day they'll just turn around and say, "This is the one. This is my perfect
Yeah,
cat."
yeah, yeah.
So patience is definitely a
True, true.
virtue in
So
this.
that's another one of your another part of work, right? So it is not just the pet care. So you need to educate the people, and you
Exactly.
need to give good awareness to that. And that's a hell lot of task actually to convince them, saying that so you better go with this or better go with this. So it's a uh, big task
we
though.
just we just try to advise as much as we can from our experience. We know what works better, and we want it to be the right ownership relationship.
Yeah,
We know that sometimes you have to take certain things into account when you're adopting an animal, and we have the experience and can help to guide. We don't want, our aim is not just to get them off the streets and into a home as fast as possible. Our aim is to get them off the streets and then get them into the right home. If
true,
that takes a little bit of time, we would rather spend the time finding them the right home that they'll
true.
stay in for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, true, true. I have two follow-up questions on this actually. So there is one word of positive side, like a fancy word, I would say, responsible pet ownership. That's a nowadays it's fancy word though. There is another one. I have a negative question. That's why people dump these pets or animals on the street. Is it someone's individual, personal, selfish mind, or is it a culture, something related to it? So I'm not just asking about Qatar. So I'm asking about like entire like GCC, or what's your experience on that? So is it something someone's personal selfish mind, very
So those
frankly?
two questions are basically the same thing. And
Yeah,
part of what we do at Cause is, yes, we look after animals, but a massive part of what we do is education. And
yeah,
we try to educate people before they get the pet to make the right decision.
yeah,
Because a lot of people abandon the pet because they buy an animal on a whim. So they go into a pet shop and they see
yeah,
something there and it's cute or it's unusual, or they go, oh my goodness, that's amazing, I want it.
yeah,
They buy it, take it home, and then they have remorse where they realize this is not the pet for me. I can't take care of this.
yeah,
Maybe it's too much money to take care of it,
yeah,
or it's too
yeah,
much attention, or you don't have the right experience.
yeah,
And they panic and they just think, I can't deal with this. I need to get rid of it. Now, they can post online, but it's hard to find good homes for animals in Qatar. And when you have so many being posted on a daily basis, we understand that it's highly unlikely you're going to rehome an animal within a
yeah,
week or 10
yeah,
days.
yeah,
So
true.
many people think, okay, I'll just put it on the streets, someone else will pick it up, and then it's their problem. We have another set of people who adopt animals who then think that they're doing the right thing by releasing them into the wild. And we have a problem very randomly with ducks. And
Mm.
a lot of people will buy ducklings from the souk and then go and release them at Aspire Park. What they don't understand is the dynamics of ducks is that the ducks that already live at Aspire won't accept a random duckling. So we get a
Yeah,
lot of phone calls from security at the parks to say these ducklings are being attacked by the ducks. Can you come and rescue them?
yeah,
People
yeah,
also release lizards and birds and things that are not native to this country, but they think they're
correct,
releasing them into the wild.
correct.
And actually, they're causing a lot of problems because the animals can't survive. We end up having to rescue them as well. So going back to the education and the responsible pet ownership, making sure you've done your research before you take any animal into your home is really important, because
True.
having that break where you take a breath and think, okay, maybe that's not the right animal for me, can
True.
reduce the number of animals that are abandoned. We
Yeah,
do also see a little bit of a cultural divide where just historically animals are not seen as a part of the family. They're
uh,
more a commodity. So when it's no good anymore, you just replace it with a new one. And we see this sometimes with the racing dogs,
yeah,
the Salukis that maybe have had an injury and can't race anymore. They're almost disposable. So they're
yeah,
just left and a new one is bought to replace it.
yeah, yeah,
This is something that we're trying to work on the education side, that they're not disposable, that when you leave Qatar, it's not a for Qatar pet, it's a forever pet. So if you
true,
leave, it goes with you. And
true.
this is all different nationalities and all different cultures. We have phone calls from all different people saying, we're leaving the country
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we've decided that we're going to go into an apartment when we move, so we don't want to take our big dog with us, or
yeah,
we didn't do the paperwork in time and now it's going to cost too much money.
yeah.
Um, when we do the interview process back at the beginning, part of the reason why we ask, where are you from? Where are you going to when you leave Qatar? Is so that we can start to give you a good idea of what it'll take for you to take the pet with you. For example, if someone says to us, I'm from Australia and I'm looking for a large dog, from the very beginning, we can warn them, okay, but you know it's going to cost you 50,000 reals to take this pet with you when you leave. If you can't commit to that financial responsibility, there are other options. We're always looking for foster homes and volunteers. So it's one of the things that you take into consideration is the financial aspect as well. Because for some people, it's a big commitment.
Yeah, so there is one experience I want to share here. So like, I lost one of my cats actually. So then you mentioned that community based thinking, right? So there is one guy, he was asking that why don't you get another cat so it will replace the previous one. So it was very sad moment for me. So like you cannot replace if it is a kid. So your own kid, so how you can replace with another kid or another adopted one. So yeah, it's true. So what's your suggestion or ideal process of getting a pet? So so is it adopting or buying or what is the ideal? So fostering in the initial some days, or what is your ideal way of getting a pet?
So obviously, I'm very biased on this. Adopting is definitely the way forward. And it's not just because the rescuers are inundated with animals that need homes, but our thought process on giving you an animal is very different to going to a pet shop. If you go to a pet shop, the majority of them just want to sell the animal. They will tell you anything and they won't necessarily be honest and they won't be able to answer your questions. A lot of the pets that are in pet shops, the guys and the women that work there, they don't know the animals like personality wise. They just know this is X breed of X age. Yes, this is the cost. Take it.
Great. And
If you
my
come
kid
to
loved it.
us,
So that's another
yeah.
another reason. So my kid loved it and I want to just buy it.
And that's something that we hear all the time is families come and say, my daughter wants a dog. And
Yeah.
we say, fantastic, but do you want a dog? Because your daughter's 10 and within 3 months, they're going to be bored of it. They're no longer going to be walking the dog every day. They're no longer going to be feeding it. In a few years' time, when they maybe travel overseas to go to university, the parents are still going to have the dog.
Yeah.
So you can't say, my child wants a pet. It has to be our family wants a pet.
Great. Yeah. True. So now, some positive. So now we just heard some like the complications of it. So now I want you to share some success stories. Like so, like when I ask you like some success stories that you like send some pets to overseas or here, and you heard some good stories from them. So can you just share like one or two stories of some positive news about
Yeah.
your
We're
giving
very
away?
fortunate that we work with some amazing overseas partner groups and
Yeah.
they have just done amazing things. We have dogs that sit in the shelter here at Qatar that nobody wants and they get overlooked every single time. And sometimes they sit with us for 2 years or 3 years. And then our partners in Canada and the US agree to take them and find them homes overseas. And then to get videos of these dogs running in the snow in the mountains and going to the beach, and it's great to hear. We've got dogs that go on to do agility competitions. They do all different kinds of things. And it's lovely to see the difference of where they came from to where they end up for sure.
Yeah, true. It's amazing feeling, right? So you feel so satisfied, right? Yeah.
It's
So I
it's
when yeah, go ahead.
it's why we do it. There's a lot of negatives, but seeing the
True.
animals in the home at the end is 100% why we do it.
True. The passion I see. I have been there to your place couple of times, and I know that like for every pet you have a name. So I have heard like every pet. So it's so hard thing though, but that's a passion that you have towards the
It
pet.
is,
Yeah.
but it leads on to this thing that it's not a thing. It's not an
Yeah.
object. You're not going to buy a pair of shoes. You're going to buy another living creature who is
Yeah.
going to be a part of your family. If we don't give them names, they're just objects. They
Yeah.
are. We will introduce you to Daisy or to Buddy, and we will tell you their personalities. We'll tell you what they like and what they don't like. He doesn't like chicken treats. She loves
True.
biscuits.
True.
And just thinking of them as another sentient being who has likes and dislikes, they have feelings that you have to take into account. It
True.
helps people with the understanding that they are taking on a part of the family and not just a car that you'll sell when you leave the country.
Yeah. So coming back to our application, so what are some of the immediate features? So you already mentioned that community feature that we want to develop. So we are working towards to it. So it's just a matter of, as you said, so it's a matter of educating people. And so when I talk to people about my pet world, so they think only about e-commerce part. So my focus is not e-commerce part. So it is about the community development. So that's one feature that we want to develop, and it takes time. What are the other features very particular as a pet owner yourself, or as a community member yourself, so you want us to develop immediately?
It would be great to have basically an information center where if someone has a situation where they need advice, they can come straight onto the app and you have basically frequently asked questions. What do you do if you find a kitten? What do I do if my dog suddenly stops eating? And being able to give just quick answers that people can then say, okay, you need to go straight to a vet, or don't touch the kitten. Something where people can go on and find out information without having to wait for one of the rescuers to respond back. We get a lot of questions that if we had an app that we could direct people to. So a common one, unfortunately, is I've lost my dog, what should I do? And if we're busy, because obviously we're volunteers, we have full-time jobs. If we're not able to reply very quickly, people are waiting 6, 8, 10 hours for a response. If we can just say, please direct to this app, have a look at their information fast, and you have a step-by-step, this is what you should be doing if you lose your dog. Immediately post on this app photos, locations, your contact details. Obviously, never ever post the microchip number of your lost pet. That is something you should never do, but you should post very clear photos. All pet owners should have a very clear photo of every single one of their pets. You need to make sure information on microchipping would be fantastic, because a lot of people don't understand how a microchip works. And to have this community-based information where someone can go on, scroll through, see FAQs on microchips, and maybe it will make them think, oh, wait, I never registered my pet's microchip number. I didn't realize I had to do that.
Yeah.
So this is information that you can have that is always available. It doesn't need someone to be sat there giving you an answer. You can, at any time of the day, go online and find advice on certain things. And the advice may just be call your vet like immediately. But at least you know that you can go on and you can get your answers 24 hours a day. They are there and ready.
Yeah, so basically it is a knowledge base. It's a part of our education system.
But not relying on the community to provide the information, to have a set number of documents that are there with information available for everyone all the time.
True. That's cool. So you mentioned that you have like Canada-based connections, organizations that you collaborate. Is it? So I know that it's not cause only pet shelter here. There are many organizations here. So how well do you collaborate with other organizations? What is a positive way of doing it? And other international organizations that you have any collaborations? Can you just share more details on that too? So that people are aware that so it's not just cause, or it's just not one person who is doing it. It's a big community that we are playing around.
So we have a community in Qatar that isn't as big as we would like. We need more rescuers. But we do work together. We do talk to each other, and we know that if someone has a specific person that can help with rehoming huskies, for example, we share contact details and information. Our Canadian partners are a lovely pair of sisters, Jen and Laura. Laura actually lives in Qatar. Her sister lives in Canada. So Laura was involved with us anyway from the Cause Shelter, and it developed into this partnership where they take dogs from Qatar and rehome them in Canada. Our US partners, a lot of our adopters in the US just see us through social media, whether they used to live in Qatar and they kind of know us, or they know third-party people who know us. So you go on social media, you share a post, your friends then see it. Maybe they think, okay, that's a really cute dog. I'm looking to adopt anyway. I can maybe offer an overseas dog a home. So it's all about word of mouth and community. It really is. And if we didn't have the community drive and this kind of technology available to us, we would be stuck with a lot of dogs that we couldn't get out of the country.
Yeah. True, true. Yeah, this is fantastic to know such it's just one person or one group, right? So there are multiple people involved in such a process actually. Being a startup founder myself, so I have seen many startups who say name it as a like fancy say it social entrepreneurs. So I want do you have any tips for them, so like how they can involve or like help the animal welfare initiatives? Is it just a way of course, or do you have any suggestions of other initiatives that they can help in the process?
Giving back to the community is a huge thing because Qatar is so flooded with so many things. People always gravitate towards companies or apps that give back to the community. So
Yeah,
if you can do more community-based events that involve people coming together, putting on events where people can bring their dogs and talk about pet ownership, putting on events where maybe the rescuers can bring animals that are available for adoption, being
yeah,
a central point for hosting events where people can come together, talk about everything that we love, help rehome animals, whilst
yeah,
also discussing with you ways to increase the app, coming together and looking at new ideas that would help the community as a general that maybe could be done through the app
true.
as well. Being face to face in a community setting is always the best way to do things like this, and having
True.
a way to be able to involve the pets as well is huge. Whenever we post an event where dogs are able to come to, we are always inundated with people and their pets coming.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. How the government regulations helping you in the process? The first question that we had, like evolving over the period. Do you see that there is some pending things from the as a regulation side, or do you have any suggestions or something like that?
That is a tricky question to answer.
Okay, because I want to
We
make it clear actually. So is there any, there are multiple people seeing this podcast, right? So I want them to know that there is some concerns that we have, which someone can help, so one or other person can help or influence the other people to do the better
So at the
cause.
moment, all of the it's all private rescuers that do this. So expat and local, but private. So there's not any way. We've been trying to get registered as a legal entity for the last 18 years,
Okay.
and it's just not been possible for various reasons. We've tried multiple different applications, and we always get stopped at the last point.
Yeah.
We want to become a legal shelter where we can basically build cause to be long running. Long after we've all left Qatar, cause has its own land, its own funding. It's not reliant on anyone else. It can kind of continue as it is and continue to evolve and get bigger as required.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
we're basing it on like the RSPCA in the UK or the SPCA in the US, something that is long
Yeah.
term.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Unfortunately, animals haven't always historically been the priority when it's come to regulations and things in Qatar. There are still not really any animal welfare laws in place yet, which is something that we've been asking for many, many years. And
Mm.
although there have been a lot of improvements and there have been things that have been done, we're still not quite there yet. We
Yeah.
need a way for rescuers to be registered and accountable and audited by the government, whatever is needed, so that we can go out and do what we need to do. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can
So
hold fundraising events and we can build proper facilities and we can have
yeah.
something that will serve the community much better.
Yeah, yeah, just to conclude that, so I have been in Qatar for like 10 years, and I see a very positive in change. So I hope that it will continue the positive change. And yeah, I finished that 30 minutes of commitment that I taken from Kelly actually. So do you want to add anything else? Like just so I'm sure that we will connect again like down the line.
Definitely.
But before we connect again, so I just like, do you have anything to add to this podcast, or how we can improve from the community side? So do you have any suggestions, or do you want to like in something do you want to say to the audience or something like that?
just don't be shy, get involved. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't want to come to the shelters because they think they're going to be sad. You won't, I promise you. The animals would love to see you. And
Yeah,
even
I
if
can
you
second that
can't
actually. I can
adopt,
second that so that you won't be sad. You'll be happy. Yeah.
but just even if you can't adopt, get involved. Even just sharing posts or answering questions. If somebody goes on the app and says, I'm looking to adopt a new cat, share the details for the rescuers, share
Yeah.
posts, educate everyone you know. If you're talking at home with a friend and they say, I'm thinking of getting a pet, explain to them about rescue shelters and how it's beneficial to adopt rather than going and buy one. And even just that is doing such a massive part of rescue in Qatar, and
True.
everything is appreciated.
True. True. Great. Great. Thank you so much, Kelly. So
You're very welcome. Thank you for
it's
having
my
me.
yeah, it's my pleasure to host you on this. So then I hope that we will connect again, and all success to you, and share my regards to Janet and everyone.
Yep.
And thank you so much.
And we'll be back soon.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye bye.